Bellotto's use of light tends to draw your eye, I think, into two places. One is up the steps that go up toward the right and into this courtyard that you really can't see, but you get a glimpse of. The other place your eye goes, and the other place he's put a lot of light, is where his patron, Potocki, and Potocki's son and their retainer are situated. But along with this group is a beggar. You also notice the guy in the funny red hat. And there's also a small dog. But in the shadows is an even more intriguing group, and that is a man, bearded man, leaning up against a pillar. He looks like he's in what was fine clothes, but they've seen better days. Just his expression is one of complete weariness, and then of course his wife is sitting down holding her child. And you just wonder what the story is and what Bellotto was trying to convey. Those are the things you see right away. What it takes you time to sort of appreciate and begin to gather in are the figures in the middle ground, the two women in front of the fountain. The various figures, the statues that make up the decoration of the fountain, the figures going up and down the steps, and finally that rounded courtyard. If you look closely at the steps, you can see the lines of the steps coming through some of the figures, so that it's almost as if they're ghostly. And it's called pentimento. Of course, they weren't originally that way at all. It's simply a matter of the overpaints that he used for the figures fading enough so that the strength of his underpainting to get those stairs has come through. And in fact, the balustrade and the building itself used to run all the way to the edge of the painting, but at some point Bellotto painted the sky in and had the building stop where we can't see the edge of the building now. It would have taken a great deal of mapping out and planning to get the perspective correct. By this time they were using a mathematical grid, but a truly great painter could tweak that the way the human eye sees it. And Bellotto, again, like his uncle, was a master at this. Bellotto started out working with and learning from his uncle Canaletto in Venice. By the time he was 20 years old, he was producing views that rivaled his uncle's. But ultimately, like all young men, wanted to make his own mark. And so he had an opportunity to paint views of the city of Dresden. So he was very busy during this period of time and would have gotten to know Dresden very well and spent a lot of time in and around the palaces. And after he'd been settled in for about 10 years or so, 10, 12 years, you have the 7 Years' War. And this painting was done after the bombardment of Dresden, which occurred while Bellotto was out of town. He was in Vienna. When Bellotto returned, his house was destroyed. So he lost any of his artwork, his papers. Perhaps Bellotto had this in his mind as he painted this fantasy, in other words, the destruction and the disruption of society that had been caused by that bombardment, and in fact by the 7 Years' War in general.